What is up, action takers? Welcome back to this show. Today, Derral Eves is joining, and this episode is bananas. We're talking about YouTube. We're talking about how to properly set up your channel. Should you be putting YouTube shorts on your channel? You got to listen to find out. We're going to be talking about the metaverse and how you can evolve your business and your media presence to the metaverse. We're even talking about NFTs. And when will we be going to Vid Summit with an NFT ticket? Stick around. Derral, what up? Welcome to the show.
I'm excited to be here. Seriously.
Yeah, me too. As I was just mentioning to you, when I mentioned to my mastermind program, to my mastermind group that I was going to be interviewing you, they were just going bananas. So I'm really stoked to share some of their questions with you today and talk shop, talk some YouTube.
Well, I mean, anytime I can talk YouTube, I get excited. So let's go for it, man.
Me too. Me too. So I got a lot of questions. I want to hit on something that's really trendy. I just want to get your quick thoughts on this. YouTube dislikes being removed. Pro, con, good, bad for creators. What do you think? Okay,
so I think the way that YouTube delivers their news is probably not the best. And I'm really anti taking away dislikes. I think that it helps people know a kind of a judgment of what a video is based off of that indicator. And yes, you can do it, but if it hurts someone's feelings, they're definitely in the wrong place. It's more about creating content, and it's not going to resonate with everyone. That's okay, just make it for your community. But I think it's a massive blow to the creator community, and it's a massive mistake that YouTube made.
Well, you definitely made a good point about if dislikes hurt your feelings, you're in trouble, because as we know from the internet, if someone wants to make you feel bad, they're going to make you feel bad, right?
Right.
A dislike isn't gonna absolutely make that happen. I also want to talk to you. I want to talk to you about the future, the metaverse, NFTs, but we'll get into that in a minute. Okay. I have your question about SEO here. So I had Justin Brown from Primal Video on the show a couple of months ago, and I also was speaking to Roberto Blake about the topic of SEO and your intros to your videos. Okay, so Justin's stance was, hey, listen, YouTube is transcribing every single word you say, so you want to make sure that your intros are keyword rich. Roberto had a different stance. He's saying, hey, I keep it natural. I keep it light. I want to welcome people. Where's your stance on how we should start videos on YouTube?
I think the thing for me is we're making content for people and not robots, not algorithms. You got to really take in the perspective that how are we going to communicate with people if it seems like we're keyword stuffing? I don't know if that's the best thing to do, because right now the internet has evolved so much, and what's actually happening is you actually have an AI that's running YouTube and also Google, and they're looking for patterns that humans would respond to. So as humans respond in a negative or positive way, that's what YouTube's tracking.
Yeah, good point. And so that actually segues pretty well into one of the first chapters of your book, The YouTube Formula, where you're talking about the importance of thumbnails. And, I'm working with clients who are putting their podcast, they're rebranding for YouTube, and spoiler alert, a lot of people don't know how to do thumbnails very well. And one of the major points in your book, which is great, by the way, it really lays down a lot of these key topics, is that there's an algorithm that's looking at that thumbnail, and it's trying to place those images with people that are going to be interested in that. So I'm just wondering if maybe you could expand on, do you have an example of how many words we should have on a thumbnail? Should we go no words? Should we have pictures of images that are very, for example, you see my Metaverse goggles here in my background. If I'm talking about the Metaverse, should I include those? What do you think my thumbnail should look like?
So there's no one answer fits all. If you think that that's hey, this is one answer that's going to go very specifically across all genres, all niches, then you don't really understand people very well, because there's certain things that people respond to differently, and that's what the AI is looking for. But overall, one of the biggest changes that actually occurred on YouTube was in 2012. They did a little experiment where they switched the way that YouTube was looking at content and was having an AI look at it. The test was off the charts in the sense they got 5x the amount of views and more watch time. So they decided to double down on really developing an AI ecosystem. And so they looked to their parent company, which is Google, and they had a project called Google Brain, which is an AI project that's unbelievable. And they basically adopted that into YouTube in 2013. And then that's the moment when YouTube changed. That's the moment when they're really tracking how people respond to content and how they engage. Now, you asked a very specific question about video intelligence. That is one of the features that you're actually seeing on Google Brain. But what it does is it's able to identify what's actually in a photo, and it can get really granular with it because it has all the database of Google and also YouTube. So it's able to see a lot of things that have already been tagged and identified by optical. And the key of it is, yes, it's all this data. It's what we call metadata that YouTube and Google is collecting. But realistically, at the end of the day, it's like, what's going to respond to people? And that's different than just tagging something and seeing what's there and saying, oh, this could be about, the Metaverse, because you have, Oculus in the background or whatever, or you're talking about that in your script. But like what they're looking for is how many people actually saw it and responded to it. So say, okay, when you upload a video, the only data that YouTube has is your title, what's on your thumbnail, also what's in your video, and also your description. Now, there are also a little thing called tags that you could add, but they don't really look at that as much. And it puts it out there for a test. And the test would, that title and thumbnail will either show up on the homepage or in search or different ways that you can actually experience YouTube. And when someone sees that longer than a second or about a second, is what they call an impression, okay? And they're looking very closely at how many people see it and how many people click on it. And so if it's not gonna respond to humans and people are just kind of going by and you kind of get lost in the clutter and you're doing whatever, it doesn't matter what's happening. It doesn't matter if you have these big words that you watch this now on your thumbnail, it's not gonna engage. If it doesn't engage with people or the type of people you're trying to attract, then guess what? YouTube's gonna pretty much say, okay, that's a bad video. We're moving it along because like it's not engaging people, or there might be a high probability of them of clicking on that thumbnail. After they see the thumbnail, they're glancing at the title and they think, hey, this is interesting. They click on it. And if the video doesn't really correspond with that, if it's clickbait in the sense that, hey, you're offering this, and when they came to the video, it's not even remotely close to what you're offering, or you're trying to offer it in 8 minutes, they jump off. And that's what we call a bounce rate. And YouTube's looking at that too. Say, hey, do you know, even though that the title and thumbnail is appealing, the content is not. So guess what? It's gone. You're not going to get any views or visibility on that. So that being said, every niche, every audience has a specific type of titling and content strategy that works for them as people. And one of the big things that I teach in my book is really to identify your viewer avatar. And these are people that are potential viewers that would love your content no matter what, right? And we want to be able to talk to them, and they respond certain ways. And I can tell you, there might be a Minecraft channel that are kids from 10 years old to 18 years old that are really, really engaged with a certain type of thumbnail, but it might not be the one that a Gen X or a boomer would resonate with, on a different type of content. So it's like, you got to understand who your audience is, and you're creating predictable content based off of data for them. And the best way to get data is to test things and to analyze that and adjust. That's basically the synopsis of the book.
Yeah. And use tools like YouTube Buddy or TubeBuddy so you can do your A/B testing and look at your data. I love it when I hear creators say something like, you got to produce 100 videos first, and then the real work starts, right? Which at the beginning is like totally overwhelming, but when you get in there and you start getting after it, it gets better. And of course, joining coaching communities and groups. Derral has a great coaching community at channeljumpstart.com. So if you're trying to get a jump start on your channel, it's probably a good idea to check out channeljumpstart.com. I see a tremendous value in these mastermind communities, by the way. Speaking of which, I had a really good quick call with one of the members of my community over here. His name is Bez Renfigo, and he had a great question. I'd love to get your feedback on this, Derral. So Bez asks, he's starting a new channel and he's merging the metaverse with human resources. How did these come together, right? That's the theme of his video, of his channel. Yeah. And so some of his videos are going to be more polished, edited, B-rolled, all that sort of stuff. But he also wants to do these live, rugged, raw type style videos. And he's also thinking about implementing shorts on the channel as well. So his question is, do I need to do this on separate channels, or should I merge them together on a single channel? Thoughts?
Now, I love the question, very methodical, and I love the strategy behind what you want to do. I think the biggest thing for me is I want to know, whether you're a client or a student, I want to know what the finish line is. Like I would want to know, what do you want to accomplish for this? Is it more leads? Is it building an audience? Is it engaging? Like you just got to identify that. So whoever's starting YouTube, I would always say, okay, what does your finish line look like when everything's just working perfectly? And what does that look like through work lens and also the monetization? Get a little granular with that. Also, one of the things that I'm always a big believer in is there was a study back in the 50s. It's called the Rogers adoption curve. It's like how fast people will take it and go mainstream, and there's like a cycle that's going into it. And like the first part of the cycle is the innovator cycle. I think that's where the metaverse is right now currently, and it's not even remotely close going mainstream yet. Yes, there's a lot of money going that direction. There's a lot of people seeing, hey, this is what's going to be in years to come, but we're still in a very limited stage of how many people actually, first off, care about the metaverse. Number two, actually own content that would be exciting in the metaverse. So that being said, I just want you to keep in mind that I'd look very closely at the timing of when you do this stuff, because if your main goal, your finish line is growth with an audience, you're going to actually have a smaller sample size, and you're not going to grow as fast as other content that you might do. And so you asked a very loaded question. I have these 3 ideas, and what should I do? Separate channels or whatever. 100%, I would do it on a separate channel on every one of them. The reason why I'd never include shorts on a main channel, unless your main objective is you don't really care about watch time, you don't really care about anything besides subscribers and views, but you don't care about money. Okay, you can have shorts on there. It's just a different viewing experience. When people get a short, they're not going to watch a 2-hour video on something that's more in depth. They're just not. They're in it. When they see a short, it's forced to them. They don't get to choose to be sucked into it, and they're just going to flip up if you don't grab their attention. So you're going to get that view count to go up, but the engagement's not going to be very high. Now, secondly, your metaverse. Like if you're all in.
Wait, actually, Derral, I want to back up because this is a really interesting point, because I've been experimenting with shorts a lot on my main channel, right? So I just want to make sure I'm hearing you right. This is gold, by the way. I guess if I'm hearing you correctly, your videos should set, I guess, like an expectation. Someone should have like an expectation of what they're getting from your videos, and if they're just swiping through the images of a short, for example, that might hurt their ability to actually see or engage with your long form content. Am I hearing you right?
That's a great observation, but no, that's not what I'm saying. And let me clarify. The reason why I wouldn't put shorts on a main channel is because YouTube's dumb. I'm going to put it out there. They're dumb. And it can make it really easy and solve the problem. And there's creators like me that have talked to them and advised them to do a certain thing. But all they need to do is put a button on there and say, hey, this is a short. Okay, we already know that it fits the parameters of, hey, it's under a minute, it's vertical. Okay, great. But they need to put the button on it, because what happens is when you upload a piece of content, YouTube says, oh, I got a piece of content. And it's going to put it on the homepage of YouTube. And that right there, that's the reason why I wouldn't want that on the channel, because there might be a better video that would be used as a long form that would get the same type of click rate. Okay, the same type of click rate and more watch time, but YouTube says, oh, this is a new video, it's fresh, let's get it in front of people, and so let's not have that. And that will kill channels. Like I've literally, I can prove this over and over again. And then two, just to give context of why I'm saying this is, like, I had 2 of the case studies that YouTube was trying when they started shorts. And so I had a lot of discussions with the development team on this. I've had a lot of feedback of what we wanted to improve. And there's no way I would ever recommend it unless it was, something that's time sensitive, newsworthy type stuff, and you didn't really care about your other library. Then I'd say, go right ahead, and I have channels that I'll do it on, but the end goal isn't making money. If it was making money, I'd never do shorts in a million years on it, because it's like, for the amount of volume that you'd have to get in views, like it would be like 300% higher, on a short versus what you can do on the other end. And it's
using up your digital real estate, basically, because
it really is. Because like YouTube, the AI has to make a decision. Hey, this content creator has content. We need to show it on the homepage to gather an audience that would be interested in it. Which one should we do? Well, this one's really fresh. We want it, whatever. Let's put the short in front of it. And so until YouTube puts that button on there and says, only put this in the short shelf, I don't think I would do it as a strategy to really grow. Now, that being said, if you don't care about it, you want to just grow subscribers and views, and you don't care about the money, you don't care about having loyalty, because there is no loyalty in short form. Like, people don't care. They're gonna flip up. I mean, you've been on TikTok. It's the same here on YouTube. They're going to just flip up. They're not going to really follow. And if they do, yeah, you might hit their feed a little bit more, but the algorithm's going to be very sensitive of what they actually engage with, but they're not going to really be an active follower. And so it's just a different viewing pattern from there.
Really, really interesting. Note to self: no more shorts on main channel. Got it. Got it. And I'm sorry. So I kind of cut you off just a little bit, right? Because you were talking a lot about the metaverse, which is interesting. You know, I've been doing some keyword research because I'm fascinated by Web3. There were, I think, 14 or 15 million searches for NFTs last month. There were about 90,000 searches for the metaverse. Don't you feel like there's like an early adopter advantage of being like one of the first there to be talking about the topic? Or is it maybe it's not hot enough yet?
Yeah, like, I do believe, you know, first come, if they do it the right way, is able to develop an audience, but the type of growth that you're able to have won't be as dramatic as something that's a little bit more, you know, engaged with and a little bit more thought out from a mainstream perspective. And so I've been on YouTube since 2005. That's when YouTube started, and I've seen channels start. They're like so far ahead of everyone else that they're trying to grow. They do 1,000 videos. And then the moment that it starts to take off, another channel just pops in, they're speaking to the audience, and they just have more massive growth of this channel that just literally has been, you know, leading the way. You know, there's so legacy, and all this stuff that they have are disregarded because it's not a community driven. They're trying to push an idea instead of establish a community. Communities have to kind of exist, or you need to gather a community for it to really amp up. And so it can be done. I'm not saying that I would not do it, but if the point that I was going to get at is, if you're going to do it, go all in. I would go all VR. I would not even 100% go not VR. Like, own the VR space. Like, you can do that. I started with VR on YouTube about 4 years ago because I believe in it. And I think it's going to be an amazing experience. And so we're doing for all this real estate that's out there, but you gotta connect the way that people are going to engage. So the best people that would be engaging would people that have, you know, VR, and those are the ones that you should cater to. I wouldn't worry about the people that don't have VR yet, unless you're in the tech space and you're saying, hey, this is really cool, but that'd be a different channel. I'd say go full immersive if you're going to go after it. That's a way to build a community because the community's already there. That makes sense.
Very interesting. I actually love that. Do you think that merging the human resources, because as Sean Cannell says, the riches are in the niches, right? And if you confuse, you lose, and all those great things. Sean Cannell is awesome, by the way. I'm aiming to get him on the show. But anyway, I digress. Do you think it's maybe too niche down doing something like HR and VR together? Or do you think that, you know, what are your thoughts?
I would never do that. VR is VR.
Yeah.
HR is HR. You can have a video on the HR channel that says, hey, here's a unique way to connect virtually anywhere in the world, one-off video. But there's no way that, I mean, HR is already a small segment size. Okay.
Right.
And then you're saying, okay, HR and VR is just like, you're going to get like 5 people watching your videos. Like let's be real. You know, of course it's going to be more than 5 because I mean, it's worldwide, but you're not going to get that much. But if your goal isn't necessarily to get a lot of views and a lot of community, but it's more about being a thought leader in the space, in the HR space, and then also, you know, pushing the envelope, well, then maybe that's a great idea. That's why I say the finish line is really important before you make a decision on how and what. But I can guarantee you, I would never in a million years watch an HR video, even though I have remote employees, that is about VR, if I want to just hang out with VR and get the latest and greatest stuff that's going on. Because I don't want work. I want like, hey, where's the future going? Ready Player One, the whole thing. Yeah. I want that, not like boring HR crap.
Yeah, that's a good point. So actually, speaking of that point, something that I really wanted to ask you is about, so I've got my Oculus goggles here right behind me, hopped in. One of the first apps that popped up was a YouTube app. Yep. So YouTube is there. What do you think? Predictions on YouTube and virtual reality. What's that going to look like? Is that something that you're playing with, interested in?
Yeah. So I've been pro VR, Metaverse, Web3 since I experienced The Void. I don't know if you've ever seen The Void, but in 2017, I went to a little shop, a little warehouse in Linden, Utah. and it was a full immersive Ready Player One haptic suit, the whole gamut, right? And I was able to have an adventure with my kids, and I was one of the first ones to go through it. And I'm like, this is the future. Like, I guarantee it's the future, right? And then you had a backpack, you were moving around. There was like, we touching things. It's like freaking amazing. And then they got a huge contract, billions of dollars with Disney to put Star Wars adventures in Disneylands and other locations around the world. So, that was so epic too, of going to Orlando and having a Star Wars adventure where, we were going in and freeing this stuff, and you had Darth Vader there, and you had lightsabers, and you could feel heat when the lightsabers
cool.
there. It's just epic, right? And it's just like, yeah, that's where the future's going. But there's a lot of limitations on it, and I realize that. I can honestly say that if there's a company out there that is more sensitive to that, it's not YouTube. YouTube, they will fall behind. The writing's on the wall. They don't really care as much because of the projects that they are. They might have some, hidden project they haven't announced to the world, but I literally don't think that they're be a forerunner in the space. There's other companies that I believe that aren't mainstream yet, that everybody knows about. They'll probably be the dominant space. And so to give a complete context to this, I remember the days when MySpace was a thing. And I bet there's a lot of people on here like, what's MySpace? It's like,
me and Tom, we go way back.
But that's what I'm saying is I think these companies that dominate, they'll either have to acquire to be relevant if they're not innovating. And I haven't seen YouTube innovate in a direction that I felt like was leading towards the metaverse space yet.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Obviously, I'm with you 100%. Every time I put the goggles on or let someone, the first thing they say is, whoa, because it's the technology is getting so much better. The challenge with YouTube, though, is it's driven by the creators. So how do we help the creators, give them the tools so they can build these really immersive experiences that are going to be competitive with something like Disney's Metaverse or something, right? That's an interesting challenge.
Well, no, I don't think that's going to be a problem. I think the Unreal Suite is very, very interesting, and they're leading the charge. So like Epic Games has been leading the charge with the Unreal Engine, since early '99, and their philosophy is different than anybody else's. And so I think the tools are there. It's just more, what's going to be valuable. And that's where the NFTs come in play. The NFT, the way I envision it would be when you buy something in real life, you get it in the video game. Like if you buy something in the real world, it's in the metaverse, right? So that's where I think things going. And then two, that there will be APIs talking where you can take your inventory wherever you go. And it's more about acquisition of inventory, which is a very interesting thing. And it literally is pretty much Ready Player One when it comes to the whole gamut of things and the value and what people will put energy and time into. I do believe, though, and this is just like I've had VR for years, but I do believe it will have to be a blend. I don't think people want a screen just strapped to their face the whole time. There needs to be some other ways to do it. And I think there's some merging technologies, Neuralink with Elon Musk and a few other things that are really paving the way to have a lot of these really interesting conversations. I don't know if I want a computer chip in my head, but there's going to be a different way. And I think that stage one, version one, is just going to be that experience where it's just a VR goggles strapped to your head. So
this is just endlessly fascinating. Like we could go on for hours and hours and hours on this. And you brought up NFTs, and this actually really segues, Derral, really well into another question I got from another mastermind member, Rachel Giordano. We were talking about the way that you had crowdfunded your television series, The Chosen. You raised $10 million in crowdfunding, which is crazy. And so one of her questions was, how do you see crowdfunding evolving in the future? And the immediate thing that popped into my head was NFTs. So if you were to release another show, movie, project in the form of a crowdfunding process, do you think that NFTs would play a part of that?
So great question. I do believe that crowds getting behind the content that they love is a human thing that has existed from they'll put the energy, money, and effort behind it. And then there's mechanisms to help fund or to help support said, whatever that is, whether it's a TV show or whatever. And so I do believe that there will be tools that will be used, as long as they're simple to understand and simple to implement, that will, get people where you need to be. And I see the NFT space as what we're looking at it now is very limited. I think that the way that the general public sees NFT, they don't get it. And people are explaining, well, it's like a baseball card, or, it's like getting the rookie card for LeBron James or Michael Jordan or whatever. And that's true. But I really think that that's like literally the kindergarten version of what NFT really is, right? It's just like, okay, that's the quick flash in the pan. But the utility of NFTs is far encompassing. And I think it will be a way that people will get into concerts, the way that they'll get into movies, the way that they could buy things, in real life, and then also that will apply virtually. And I think it will be something that's easy adopted. So the generation that's coming up right now is what I call the Fortnite generation. They've been using NFTs, if you want to say, in that, for a very long time. They gamified everything, and they made billions and billions of dollars by just selling this digital assets, right? And so the moment that someone like Epic, who I think is paving the way in so many different ways, are able to transfer that into the next whatever that is, whether it's a metaverse, whatever, it's game, because it has a generation that's already used to that. And getting them to adopt, they're already adopted on it. They're like, I had my daughter, she's like 23, and she was staying up really late at night just so that she can get the Spider-Man skin. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, but that's what they're doing. I want the skin, that whole digital asset that's there. And she spent a lot of energy when I would have just bought it. Like, that's just the difference between the two. So having it, you could either gamify it or to earn it, paid to play, or you pay to get that digital asset. And so I think Epic's really running a lot of interesting experiments right now that will lead to it a lot easier. But by just thinking about, it's like a sports card is the most limited way to ever think. I think, hey, that's an early way to get people adopted to it, but the utility is going to be far greater than you can ever imagine. And I think that is where Web 3.0 and NFTs are going to just go hand in hand across the board. And I think that's where the future is going. And I think that's where it's going to be. But right now, how long is that going to take? Well, time will tell. And it's all about adoption, right? And we're way on this side of the Rogers adoption curve, which is the innovator stage. We've got a long ways to go before it goes mainstream.
It reminds me a lot of when I started buying Bitcoin about 4 years ago, and people were like, Mark, it's dumb. It's not going to work. The hype is over. And listen, I'm sitting pretty over here right now. So speaking of the NFTs, you've got one of the largest, if not the largest, YouTube conference, Vid Summit. What are the chances, and when are we going to be getting an NFT to get access to Vid Summit, Derral? I got to know.
So I have two partners in Vid Summit. One is Mr. Beast, and he's so into crypto NFTs. He's been doing it for a very long time. And then also Sean Duras, who owns Space Station Integrations. They actually have an NFT project. They're one of the pioneers. They have a thing called Quarter Machine. I wouldn't be surprised if something's coming. I'm not going to say it is or not, but like we push the envelope in so many different ways, and yeah, we'll see what happens. So.
Okay. You heard it here first.
Is that elusive enough?
That's pretty elusive, but I could see Mr. Beast like saying, we're going to have, I don't know, we're going to stack NFTs to the top of the conference hall or something like that.
100%. I could see that happening. So
I'm excited. I'm excited to see what happens next. Derral, thanks for joining the show today. Links to the different projects, especially the mastermind group Darrell's putting together, in the comments. So what are you doing? Click it right now. Derral, thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining the conversation with Derral today. If you want to ask your questions to experts like Derral, if you want community, if you need support, don't go it alone. You don't have to. You shouldn't. Click below, join the Savant Mastermind program so you can get access to fellow podcasters just like you. We're going to give you tons of resources to make sure that your show is as successful as possible. Click the link below, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Peace.